In the name of God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. My friends, we are here today to celebrate. To celebrate the life, the death, and the resurrection of George Squires. And just the mention of his name brings a smile to our faces, because he brought so many smiles to the rest of us in life, and a smile we shall see again someday in the presence of God. From the United Methodist Book of Worship. And I'm Dave McRoberts. I was a pastor to the Squires family for many, many years. Baptisms, funerals, confirmations, weddings. We've been together a lot, and we are family together. But from the Book of Worship. Dying, Christ destroyed our death, but rising, Christ restored our life, and Christ will come again in glory. Here and now, dear friends, we are God's children. What we shall be has not yet been revealed, but we know that when He appears, we shall be like Him, for we shall see Him as He is. And those who have this hope purify themselves as Christ is pure. Remember the words of Jesus. He said, I am the resurrection and the life, and those who believe in me, even though they die, yet shall they live, and whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. I died, and behold, I am alive forevermore. And because I live, you also shall live. And so, yes, we gather here today to praise God, but also to thank God and to witness to our faith as we celebrate the life of George Squires. Grief, oh yes, it's grief and it's sadness. But in that we acknowledge our own human loss. May God grant us grace that in pain we find comfort, in sorrow, hope, and in death, resurrection. At Anne's service, she had requested 2 hymns to be used. First, Amazing Grace, and then How Great Thou Art. And the first we will be accompanied on the harp, the Amazing Grace. George had written, he didn't write a lot for us, but he did write that he wanted the hymns we used at Anne's service. So I think you have an insert, and we are going to sing the verses as they are printed. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. If we could up the tempo a bit, that would be nice. But grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious is that grace of you, the hour I first believed. Through many
Thank you. I want to thank everybody on behalf of the family for everybody attending today. You're all special to all of us in the family, and special to Dad. And he had a great long life, and never long enough. But he did a lot of interesting things, and we're here to celebrate his life. I wanted to thank Dave for coming out of retirement to come serve us today, and we appreciate that. You know, at times like this, obviously, we all start thinking about my 60 years almost of Dad and all the things that occurred and the things he taught, and, whether he was advising on purpose or not advising or disciplining or whatever the case might be. He was a great storyteller. And I started thinking about some of the important things that he taught me. And one of the things I wanted to share, mostly for the grandchildren or anybody younger should appreciate this, but I always think of the time that he went with me to buy my first car, a 1966 Mustang. And I think I had $600 to my name, and he wanted $650 for this car. So he negotiated like crazy, and we ended up getting the car for $600. Brought it home. I was the happiest guy in the world. And so a week or two later, I decided to take them on myself. I'm going to change the oil. And I've never changed oil before, so I proceeded to do that. And the oil change, by the way, at that time was about $7. So I go to turn the plug and overturn it. So I have to go buy an oversized plug. Overturn that. End up having to put a pan on. And so my dad said, "Hey, what'd that cost you?" I said, "About $30. He said, "Listen, I'm going to teach you an important lesson in life." He said, "And if anybody knows me, knows that I take this to very heart." He says, "You're going to get paid for what you know in life." He said, "You pay other people for what they know in life." Anyway, that's the one thing I do think about. One of the better lessons he taught me. But again, appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Clutter, Dave?
Yeah, leave it at clutter.
Pick it up. So I'm George's grandson, and I've had the honor of speaking in front of tens of thousands of people before in my life, and today is probably the toughest day to get up and speak in front of all of you. In life, we're all striving to find heroes to inspire us, and mentors to guide us. And Grandpa definitely fills both those roles in my life. I was extremely lucky to have him as a neighbor when I was growing up, and got to spend countless hours with him over the years. And as I thought back on it over the last week or so, two incidences really stood out in my mind in terms of great experiences that rise above the rest. The first was the day I learned about persistence from my mentor, and the second was the day I got to serve as his escort for my hero. I'm sure as many of you can remember, Georgia often wore a brown leather cap. And when I was growing up, I always thought it was one of the coolest things, and I absolutely needed one for myself. So one day, Grandpa decided he was going to take me out, and we were going to go find my own cap. And we went to the first store, and as he did, he befriended a nice young sales clerk. And that clerk showed us all around the store. We looked high and low, and left and right, and everywhere else in the store to try to find this brown leather cap that I needed and wanted. Unfortunately, that store didn't stock anything like it, And this process continued store after store until I'm pretty confident, as an 8-year-old self, we'd explored every store in the state of Wisconsin. So at that point in the day, my patience had clearly grown shorter and shorter, and I pleaded with him to call off the search. We were never going to find the cap, and he kept pushing me. It'll be at the next one. It'll be at the next one. And with only one store to go at the third shopping center we'd gone to that day, and fairly close to closing time, we went through the same process. I pleaded to go home, Grandpa befriended a sales clerk, and we searched the store high and low and left and right. And luckily, in that last store in the back corner, we found the cap. And I've never been so happy to have that cap and got to wear it. One of the pictures cycling through was me and him wearing those caps. From that moment on, whenever I saw him, he always brought up the fact that he taught me how to be persistent and patient and continue to fight for what you want in life. So thankful my mentor taught me about persistence that day. So the second experience that I want to talk about was the day I got to escort him on the Badger Honor flight. I'd never heard of the Badger Honor flight before. They did a presentation on my Rotary Lunch, and I'm not sure if any of you have heard of it before, but it's a nationwide group that does flights for veterans to get to go to see Washington, D.C. On an all-expense-paid trip so they can see all the memorials built in their honor. And growing up, a lot of the stories we heard about were his time in the military and some of the shenanigans he got into in that process, so I knew this was something he needed to get into. So we got him signed up, and he and I got to do that, and I was fortunate enough to be his escort. And I've never seen a guy smile from 5 a.m. in the morning until 9 p.m. at night, nonstop. Be thankful for every volunteer we ever saw and all the help they gave us in ensuring that we had the best trip possible. And he shared countless stories I'd heard before and several new ones. On the plane ride home, they did a mail call, and several of you contributed letters thanking him for his service as a veteran, thanking him for what he meant to all of us. And I never seen him smile like that before as he opened all those letters and read all the nice words you guys did for them. And I never seen him continue that smile as he got to do the ticker tape parade with thousands of people upon his return back at Dane County Airport. I'll never forget that day I got to spend with him and the humility he's shown as a hero for this country for all these years. I want to miss my grandfather, and from the time we got to spend together, the stories he loved to share, and as sad as tough as this week has been on all of us, I can only hope that in time, to quote him, we are all finer than frog's hair split 3 ways. Thank you for all being here today and joining the celebration of my grandfather's life.
For those who don't know me, my name is Patrick Estes, and I'm one of 4 of George's grandsons and the daughter of Sue. George lived a life full of love, passion, and positive energy. I'd like to share a few memories that stand out to me about my Grandpa George and how they have influenced my life and the person I am today. And just to be clear, I know that George would want us to celebrate his life on this day and remember all the amazing things that made him such a great person, even though that just naturally came when thinking about my grandpa. Growing up in California as a child, I remember my grandpa visiting my family and taking an active role in my life by taking an interest in bonding with me and attending my sporting events, which truly meant the world to me. Even though golfing wasn't really my sport, he would take me to the driving range and we would just have fun together. When I moved to Wisconsin in middle school, I was able to form an even deeper relationship with my grandpa. I recall looking forward to seeing him at every family gathering and him being the light of the party. Not in the sense that he enjoyed the attention, but it just came naturally for him. There was always a smile on his face. I distinctly remember his humor, always seemingly able to crack a joke or turn a challenge into an opportunity. He seemed to get along with everyone, which always amazed me. Just by looking at the family he raised is evidence of the impact he has made, directly or indirectly, on the many lives around him. He used these skills and natural talents in his personal life and also his professional life. Hearing the many stories about his adventures in the realm of business have especially inspired me. There was truly a special entrepreneurial spirit about him that I really gravitated towards. He was a warm, caring, humble, and intelligent man. It is difficult to find the words that describe the man who served such a positive role model in my life. After studying psychology, human resources management, and organizational development, it has been interesting and enlightening for me to observe some of the approaches that George took in his career as a salesman and entrepreneur. One thing for sure is that George was a master of emotional intelligence. Not only was he a great storyteller, he was a great observer and listener. His level of self-awareness allowed him to connect with other people on a different level, and his attitude allowed him to persist through tough times. I was recently amazed but not surprised when I saw an award for best trainee during his time in the military, and after reflecting on all this, it's no wonder I'm interested in the things that I am today. His self-motivation taught me that hard work pays off, and that if I put all of my mind and heart into what I'm doing, I can be successful at whatever I am doing. I've also learned from him that attitude and perspective on life in various situations are really the keys to success. He taught me what being a man is really all about. It's not about being tough or any of the things that society makes it out to be. It's about treating people with respect, love, and understanding, and being there for them through the best and worst of times. Likewise, I learned from him the importance of relationships and connecting with other people. He was active in his community, church, family, and all the different roles he played in his life. He has made a lasting impact on me that is such a beautiful thing. He has shaped my values, and the man I am today. I'm forever grateful for the role he played in my life. I can say without a doubt that he would tell me that he was proud of me today. But today, I would like everyone to know how much I'm proud of him and appreciate the wonderful times we had together.
So a major force in my life has passed, a major love. So growing up, you don't always appreciate your parents as much as you probably should. Dad and Mom helped shape who we are and who we became, and continued long after we'd left the nest. I left home at 18, but through all these other 40 years, he's certainly been there and taught me lessons and continued to instill in me a love of people. Dad taught me to work with my hands. He taught me how to problem solve, and he taught me how to be inventive, because that was the kind of guy he was. He had a ceaseless curiosity and a wonder. He encouraged me to explore new ideas and provided an ear when I needed to discuss ideas with someone. Dad was a man who smiled a lot, as has been mentioned already. And if he wasn't smiling, it was very easy to encourage him to smile at any point. We forget these days how important the smile is, how it affects those around us and makes the world a better place. His smile was tied to his humor and, of course, his stories, and typically one would roll into the other, and continue on. He touched people's hearts with his humor and his stories, and it made their day a little bit brighter. And even this last week, he was continuing to make our days brighter and provide humor and wit in everything he was doing.
Rob, the youngest of George and Ann's 5 children. When I say youngest, I mean my next brothers, Scott and Steve, are 9 years older than me. The oldest, Michael, is 15 years older than me, and Sue made me swear not to reveal her age. I was the accident who surprised Mom and Dad when they were 40 years old. That was an old age to have a baby in the 1960s. Dad always told the story of a waitress in a restaurant, and upon seeing me as a baby, commented to Dad that I was a cute grandchild. Dad jokingly told her that she just cut her tip in half. My parents always told me they wouldn't trade me for $1 million. I'm not sure my siblings would probably take a lot less. I had the advantage of growing up as the youngest child and then being like the only child when everyone moved away. I have to credit Michael, Sue, Scott, Steve for breaking Mom and Dad in as parents. So when I came along, Dad had seen everything. I have so many great memories of my dad. Dad was always working, traveled the country for his work, worked hard, but he always made time to throw the frisbee, play ping pong, or watch me in sports when he was home. By example, not by what he said to do, he taught me so many things about work ethic, patience, creative thinking, positive thinking, and self-education. Dad showed his spiritual side by practicing what he preached. The parable of the prodigal son could have been written about Dad and me. Dad encouraged all of his kids to pursue their passions. He didn't steer us in his business areas, and in fact, he dissuaded some of us from following in his footsteps. Financially and emotionally, our parents supported us. They gave us the freedom to fail and learn from our mistakes. Dad always told me and the others how much he loved me and was proud of me. He continued telling my kids, his grandkids, the same encouraging words. He always amazed me with his adoption of technology. Like when he asked to get an iPhone, and so I talked him through it, and he got one, and I showed him how to FaceTime. He was so into that, as well as using a voice recognition program on his computer. I was his tech support a lot of times, but he did so many things at his age that most people don't do in their whole life. I'll always remember Dad as being there for me and listening and encouraging me to do what I felt a passion for.
That was wonderful. And we show our appreciation. Watching Rob up here reminded me of, if you want to know how fast you can get from Milwaukee to Madison, go with Rob to Milwaukee Bucks game and be in a hurry to get home. I've been shaking ever since Rob. That's been 25 years ago or whatever. You know, I've got some things to say, but it's not going to fit. I mean, you guys, that was just wonderful. But that's who George was. Just a wonderful guy who, and he didn't want you to walk in his footsteps, but that's my message today is I want us to learn something from George and walk in his footsteps. I do want to share just a few words from Mike, the oldest son, who sent an email last night, and he was here a couple weeks ago, I guess, with Dad and family, big gathering. Here's what he says, Mike. He's from Seattle. Very few of us have streets or buildings named after us. Our true legacy is how we impacted the lives of people around us You can see George's legacy in children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. You can see it looking at his 75th birthday party, his 90th birthday party, his email messages, and the faces around you now. Every one of us is richer for knowing George, and those of us who call him Dad have been truly blessed. Oh, how true that is. George is one of the most remarkable people I ever met. And we've known each other for 26 years. And when he and Ann joined Asbury United Methodist Church, right down here on University. No, back then we were on Southfield Drive, actually. George seemed to know a whole lot about everything. And if he didn't, soon he would. I think his computer must be sleep deprived. He was an extraordinary conversationalist. He would and could talk to anybody. He wasn't loud and obnoxious, but he intentionally and quietly sought people out just to help them enjoy the moment. That was his life. And I was thinking, if he could be here today, if he hadn't caught you in the pre-time, the visitation time, he'd hang around and get you after. He wanted to make a contact with everybody. He took the time to carefully relate to people with laughter, but a genuine concern as well. What amazed me about George is he could never get so caught up in himself that he forgot about others. He knew about our needs, and he never let other things crowd out his relationship with others as to why God has us here in the first place. That 90-year-old George still reaching out to the very end. And so we enjoyed being around him very much. May we learn from George the lessons of his life. Now, the obituary was in the paper, and I was going to read it today, but I think we'll just talk about George instead. It says this: George lived a full and interesting life. That's one sentence. Well, it was a full and interesting life. This man who was so